Buying the townhouse in Burlington was supposed to be my personal finale, the finale of my office drone career, of renting, of living out of suitcases. Remote work, my own nook in a quiet corner of Ontario where the only noise was birdsong and lawnmowers on Saturdays. The perfect quiet harbor for a developer whose main tool is concentration. That concentration was broken by a trivial thing, the Wi-Fi. I moved in, unpacked the boxes, and the first thing I did was set up the network. I bought a new router, the fastest one, but when I opened the list of available networks, I saw it. Home_network 7B. Full signal strength, 5 bars, like from my future router, which I hadn't even unboxed yet. I thought it was a neighbor, though the houses were a decent distance apart. I decided not to overthink it, set up my own network, named it Fortress. Funny, right? A couple of days later, checking connected devices through the app, I saw it. In the list, below my laptop and phone, hung a third entry, Brother. No MAC address resembling my devices, no model name, just Brother. And the signal indicator was green, maxed out. As if this device was in the same room. An icy needle traced my spine. I was alone, in my living room, in the silence, and the app claimed someone or something was here with me. I did what any techie would do. A full factory reset of the router, reflashed everything, came up with a 20-character password, letters, numbers, symbols. I spent the whole evening refreshing the device list page. Only my gadgets. Silence. I breathed a sigh of relief, blamed a firmware glitch. The next day, after a Zoom meeting, I checked the app again, and there it was again, Brother 2. Signal strength, still those 5 fat bars. This was the unsolvable riddle. Physically impossible to connect to a fresh network without the new password, but it was there. I turned off Wi-Fi on all my devices. The list went empty for 5 minutes. Then Brother 2 reappeared, alone, as if it was connected not through the air, but directly into the wires.
Panic gave way to a cold, analytical horror. I bought 2 mini motion sensor cameras, pointed one at the front door, the second into the basement, the farthest corner where I thought the strongest signal might come from. The basement was damp, unfinished, bare concrete walls, boxes of junk, pipes. I left for the day to Toronto for a meeting. Returning that evening, I checked the footage. The door camera, nothing. The basement camera, there was nothing to see there either. But there was an audio track. At a time when I was out of town, the camera had picked up a sound, a quiet, drawn-out metallic scrape, as if something heavy had been dragged along the concrete wall. Once, then an hour later, another one, closer, coming from directly behind the wall shared with the adjacent townhouse. The wall looked solid, monolithic. I stood in the middle of my living room and felt my circle of normalcy cracking. I called the company managing the development. They swore there was only a load-bearing wall and insulation between the units, no technical cavities. My neighbor, elderly Mr. Abbott, confirmed it. The previous owner, a quiet man, lived alone, sold the place, and left. The next blow came from my own helper, the smart speaker I'd bought for music and weather. I was making coffee when, in the quiet of the kitchen, its neutral electronic voice spoke without any prompt. "Quiet, he is checking." The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor. I froze. This wasn't a phrase from a library, not a song lyric. It was a generated voice uttering a meaningful situational command. I yanked the speaker's plug from the outlet. The house fell silent, but now the silence was different, thick, attentive, hostile. I had become the silent witness to my own nightmare. I never saw the threat, only its digital traces, its sounds, its voice in my own devices. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, armed with a flashlight and a screwdriver, I went down to the basement. I tapped on the wall, the one the scraping had come from, and in one spot, behind a stack of old boards, the sound was dull, hollow,
not concrete. I moved the boards. The plaster here looked slightly different, with a finer texture. I pushed on it. The edge of a panel, disguised as plaster, gave way inward. My fingers went numb. I tore it off. Behind it was not a wall. Behind it was a gap, a black, narrow opening no more than 40 centimeters wide, disappearing into the darkness between my house and the neighbor's. The air from within smelled of dust, must, and something else, the sour tang of a living body.
I called an inspector. A stern man with a powerful flashlight arrived. He illuminated the space. Empty. Almost. At the very end, about 1.5 meters from the breach, a rolled-up, dirty sleeping bag lay on the floor. Next to it, plugged into a single outlet, a phone charger. A cheap burner phone lay beside it, its screen dark. But that's not what made my heart stop. On the inner side of my wall, the one facing into this crawl space, a logo was drawn in pencil. Recognizable, down to the details, the logo of a Silicon Valley startup where I'd worked 3 hellish years 5 years ago. A company that had gone bankrupt, a logo no one here in Burlington could have known. The inspector was saying something about an illegal modification, about calling the police. He picked up the phone from the gap, pressed a button. The screen lit up. There was no home screen. It displayed open text like in a simple editor. Just one line, typed in Latin characters. "Welcome home, Mark. The firewall is down." The police found nothing. No prints besides mine and old ones. No traces. The neighbors heard nothing. The previous owner had vanished without a trace. They sealed up the fake wall. I sold the townhouse at a discount. Moved to a condo with a concierge, a high-rise in the city center. But sometimes, when my laptop does an automatic update at night and disconnects from Wi-Fi for a second, I see a network name flash in the available list for a fraction of a second. Brother Final. Signal strength, 1 weak bar, as if from far away. And I understand the most terrible thing. He didn't live in that wall. He was waiting in that wall, waiting for me, specifically me, Mark, a developer with a specific past, to buy this house. And now that the physical trap is gone, I'm not sure he was ever physically there at all. Maybe he was in something else all along, in something I brought with me. And now, wherever I go, he is quietly checking the breach in my firewall again.
This was supposed to be our fresh start. A cottage in the woods near Morgantown, a view of the hills, a silence you could almost touch. After 5 years in a stuffy rented city apartment, it felt like heaven. Tom and I were unpacking boxes, laughing, planning where to put the swing set for future children. Our paradise lasted exactly 36 hours. On the second day, I stepped out onto the back porch with my morning coffee, and I saw the circle. It lay in the center of our uncut lawn, perfectly round, about 5 feet across, formed from children's toys. Not new, bright ones, but old, faded things. Plastic soldiers with peeling paint, cars missing wheels, dolls with cracked faces and hair of matted fishing line. They were placed end to end, forming a clear, unambiguous ring. Like a stone circle, but made of plastic nightmare. "Someone's joking," Tom said, coming up beside me. "Maybe the neighbors, a welcome to the neighborhood thing?" We gathered the junk into a trash bag. The toys were cold to the touch, despite the morning sun, and smelled of dust and long neglect. We drove the bag to the dump at the end of our long dirt road. That was that. Joke over. The next morning, the circle was packed. My feet rooted to the porch boards. The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered. The circle, again, but not the same one. different toys. A rocking horse with one broken runner, a badminton racket with no net, a teddy bear with a missing bead eye. Again, perfect geometry. Again, I see silence all around. The unsolvable riddle began right there. A heavy drumming rain had fallen overnight. The grass was soaked, the earth soft and muddy, but the toys were bone dry. Dusty dry, as if just pulled from a sealed attic. I touched one of the cars with my finger, not a drop of moisture. It defied everything.
Tom, ever the rational one, decided to take control. He bought a battery-powered night vision camera, attached it to the downspout, aimed at the lawn. "We'll catch these joker neighbors red-handed," he said, but the confidence was already gone from his voice. We didn't sleep that night, tossing and turning, listening to the creaks of the new house. At 4:23 a.m., Tom's phone, synced to the camera, gave a soft click, a motion alert. The footage was short, shaky in the greenish hues of night vision. It showed no neighbors, no kids, no people at all. At first, the lawn was empty. Then, from under the porch, from the narrow gap between the foundation and the decking, something rolled out. A soldier. It tumbled once, twice, as if pushed by a strong, pinpoint gust of wind from under the house itself. Then a doll, then a car. They emerged from under the porch one by one, each with its own trajectory, as if invisible fingers were playing a cruel game of billiards under the floorboards. They collided, rolled away, but with a sinister, purposeful intent. And in 7 minutes, silently, on that screen of green hell, they arranged themselves into that same flawless circle. Then all movement ceased. The gap that had birthed them was black and still. We watched the recording over and over until horror numbed all feeling. This was the silent witness, evidence of a process without a visible actor. Not an animal, not a person. As if the house itself was exhaling these artifacts at night. The next day, pale but determined, Tom hired a crew. Guys with crowbars and flashlights pried up the decking of our porch. I stood aside, biting my lips until they bled, expecting the worst. A burrow, a tunnel, remains. They found only dry, packed earth. No burrows, no tunnels, no signs of rodents or raccoons. But in the far corner, in a little hollow, lay dozens of old toys, arranged neatly like a collection. The ones we'd already seen and ones we had yet to see. All clean, all dry. The pest control specialist threw up his hands. No critters, no explanation.
After that, the circles stopped appearing. You'd think it was over. We had the space under the porch filled with concrete, new decking laid on top. The silence returned, but it was a different silence. The change in the rules didn't happen outside. It happened inside us. Now we're afraid of drafts. A slight breeze from a cracked window making a curtain flutter freezes us in place. The rustle of paper falling from a table sends an icy jab to the gut. When the kitchen vent hood hums, we exchange quick, panicked glances. Because we saw how they moved, as if driven by the wind, but there was no wind that night, not a single breath of it. Our house no longer breathes. It is holding its breath, and we are holding our breath with it. We tiptoe, we whisper, we seal every window airtight. We witnessed a silent, inexplicable anomaly that came not from the forest, but from under our own threshold. And now, any movement of air in silence of our cottage feels like a harbinger of new exhalation, a new circle. Only this time, we don't know what it will be made of, or where we'll find it in the morning. Maybe not on the grass anymore. Maybe in our bedroom. We bought our dream house, and we got a perfect soundproofed trap where the most terrifying sound is the soft whistle and crack of a door not quite shut tight.
Moving into a new house is always chaos. Boxes, dust, children's laughter tipping into exhausted hysterics. Our new house at 17 Lime Street in Grand Rapids was perfect. Fresh paint, wood-scented floors, a quiet neighborhood of other young families. Jason and I breathed a sigh of relief, the start of our adult, settled life. That first evening, unpacking kitchen boxes, I got lost in my phone for 5 minutes and saw a friend request, Jenny Morrison. The profile picture, a smiling woman in her 40s with kind eyes against blooming hydrangeas. Location, Grand Rapids. In the bio, happy to have new neighbors, living on Lime Street, 15. I smiled. What lovely, forward-thinking neighbors. I accepted the request. Welcome to the neighborhood, a message popped up instantly. Saw you moving in, hope the kids like the surprise in the blue room. The blue room, that's what Jason and I jokingly called our son's bedroom, which we planned to paint blue. Right now, it was empty except for an old, deep built-in closet. I walked in. My heart was beating a little faster for some reason. I opened the closet door. On the single shelf, in a beam of light from the window, sat a stuffed dog. The toy was old, faded, with one glass eye and a protruding thread instead of an ear. It smelled of must, dust, and something Swedish, like stale tobacco. I threw it away, feeling a slight tremor in my fingers. The builders must have forgotten it, or the previous owners, though the house was brand new, built from scratch. Weird.
The next day, I posted our first family photo on Facebook against a backdrop of boxes. Lisa, our 5-year-old, was laughing, hugging the cat. A minute later, a comment appeared under the photo from Jenny Morrison. "What a sweetheart! Lizzie looks just like her grandmother. And did Timmy like the doggy?" An icy wave washed over me from head to toe. Tim is a 3-year-old son. Anyone digging through my old photos could know about Lisa's grandmother, but the doggy? That was about the very dog from the closet, which we hadn't shown anyone, which I'd thrown away immediately. The unsolvable riddle began here. How could she know? I went outside, walked to where house number 15 should be. There, 2 empty lots over from us, was just a weed-choked vacant lot, fenced with temporary construction fencing. No house. I asked the neighbor across the street. She looked at me like I was crazy. "There's never been a number 15 here. Consider yourself lucky with the view." That evening, another friend request arrived. Michael Morrison, Jenny's husband. With trembling hands, I opened his profile. It was filled out, too filled out. Dozens of photos, our neighborhood, our street. But everything was shot from strange, low angles. A view of our house from under the lilac bush by the fence. A view of our driveway from around the garage corner. The swings at the community playground shot as if the photographer was crouched in tall grass. Some photos had dates. Last month, last year. Even one showed a Christmas wreath on our future lot, which back then was just bare dirt. The photos were perfect, lifelike, but their angles were those of surveillance. This was the silent witness, not of a direct threat, but of its all-seeing, patient presence.
Jason and I blocked both Morrisons, reported them for harassment to Facebook. We were politely thanked for the report. And the next day, a package arrived. A small cardboard box addressed to Timothy Carter. Sender, Neighbors, Lime Street, 15. Inside, on cotton padding, lay a doll. homemade ragdoll with buttons for eyes and a smile embroidered clumsily with red thread. The little dress was sewn from a small floral print fabric, exactly like the curtains for her daughter's room. The very curtains we'd bought a week ago and hadn't hung yet. They were in a box in the garage. This was no longer a digital shadow. This was a physical object created with terrifying knowledge of our personal, not yet implemented details. We went to the police. An officer, listening to our disjointed story, dug into some archives on his computer. His face became impassively professional, but tension appeared at the corners of his eyes. "You see, Mrs. Carter," he said slowly, "when they developed this residential complex 3 years ago, they used fresh maps, but they didn't account for old neighborhood plans, very old ones. Where your house and the vacant lot are now, there used to be a single street with different numbering. A house that was demolished, I believe, in the late 70s. It was number 15. The air left my lungs. And who lived there? The record is incomplete. The Morrison family, Jennifer and Michael, went missing in 1978. A cold case.
The toxic kind of help from the police was giving us a fact, but stripping away any possibility of a rational explanation. They checked the IP addresses of the accounts, a chain of proxies leading nowhere. The photos in Michael's profile were analyzed by an expert. The result? High probability the images were generated or radically edited by a neural network, a contemporary one. No traces of an actual person taking them. Who was doing this and why? We asked. There was no answer. Maybe a black PR stunt? A maniac historian? A crypto art project messing with new homeowners? The police increased patrols, but how do you arrest an algorithm? The requests keep coming. Not just from Jenny and Michael anymore. Now from their daughter Susie, from Jenny's brother Bill, all with flawless, lifelike profile pictures, all with the address Lime Street 15. They comment on my old photos, like Jason's work pictures. Susie sent Lisa a virtual gift in a game, a doll in a dress made from the same floral fabric. We don't sleep. We dug the curtains out of the box and burned them in the fireplace. We put up blinds. Every morning we wake up and the first thing we do is check the vacant lot beyond the fence. It's empty, but the digital ghosts of that land, of that old number, are alive and active. They welcome us, they watch us, they know us better and better. The fear is no longer that someone will knock on the door. The fear is in the soft ping of a phone notification, in a like under a photo of Tim riding his bike for the first time, in a friendly comment. What a big boy, he'll make it all the way to the 15th house soon. We live at number 17. But every day, every notification reminds us that we've built our lives, our children, on a foundation that in someone's, or something's, digital, relentless reality is still registered under number 15. And the neighbors from there never intended to leave. They just upgraded to a new form of communication, and their greetings are becoming more specific by the day.